So when you gonna tell her that we did that too? She thinks it's special, but it's all reused. I say that because I reviewed this in diecast form. I never thought I'd be singing Olivia Rodrigo on this channel. But you know, I actually understand what it feels like to be a teenage girl now. Sure, she's actually a really good songwriter. I really like her music. It's quite funny because I'm a 50-plus-year-old man that used to own many guns and ride motorcycles, super bikes, that kind of stuff. But I can actually relate to her music for some odd reason. But I'm not normal. Anyways, today we have the resin version of this car. Now, I don't know about you guys. You know, it's sacrilegious to take one of the most iconic cars in history and then slap a wide body kit on it. Maybe it is, but I gotta say, I love the look of this LBWK F40 so much that I now have the resin and diecast version that was done by Inno64. Not too long ago did I review that also. So it was interesting to give you a sticker. I was a little hesitant to buy this because I didn't know if it came with decals that make it look like that. But I bought this at my local dealer, and so pleasantly they were smart enough to put the decals right here. And so that's why I bought this. But if you don't, you know, have the ability to put decals on, you don't have to, because clearly this car is rolling through Japan without a big red flag on there. Maybe it's sacrilegious. Maybe it's not cool to put a Japanese flag on your car in Japan. Probably. I don't know. Anyways, let's get into this resin masterpiece, hopefully. But the brand FuelMe, I don't think has let me down yet. And I'm pretty good at being let down by almost all brands collecting things that look like 1/64 scale cars. But hopefully not today. Wow. Okay. Strong tape. You get weaker when you get older, guys. Hate to tell you. And gals. Sorry, I know there's a few women that watch this, and maybe you can relate to Olivia Rodrigo more than I can. I would hope so. Very well, so what I like about FuelMe also is they don't make you buy cardboard boxes, like really strong cardboard boxes. All it has is the sleeve, like normal diecast premiums. And it's actually a pretty cool little cartoon here. And then it's also an official FuelMe. No, wait. I'm looking for the Liberty Walk approval. I don't know if this is a licensed product or not. Maybe it's not. But FuelMe's been around for years now, so I don't know if this is licensed or not. You know, I know a lot of you are far more ethical than I am and actually care about that. But I do not, so you can live vicariously evil through me in my collecting evil, illegal models. It could be tape. Yep, there it is. Hold on. So naturally, I'm not going to talk about this car. I think I talked about it when I reviewed the Inno. We just gotta get into the details. Being a resin, we're gonna be here for half an hour probably. Obviously skip forward. Yes, you need to. So that was actually a pretty tight cap, but still not a good habit to lift things by the cover unless you wanted to drop to the floor and you have to buy another model. Oh boy, I guess I should... I'll put those decals on later. Let's just start with this. Okay. So yeah, you know, part of me again thinks it's wrong to over-fender an F40. But I suppose if I was wealthy enough to own an F40, I would own two of them. And keep one stock, and then keep one ridiculous. Not that the original was kind of ridiculous in its first, you know, its own. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put those decals on. So in the event that you're not an actual model maker, here's a little tutorial on decals. So anything you see on a decal sheet most likely will become a decal. So all these tiny black dots, maybe you can't see them, but there's a perimeter of small black dots. That's going to mess up the red stuff. So I'm going to trim all that off because I don't want that messing up my red thing. Some decals take a long time to soak up the water. Some will only take like 5 to 10 seconds, so I don't know what kind of decal this is. It's fairly fresh, but the thicker the decal is, the longer it's gonna take the water to loosen it up. That's my experience, at least, having built a few hundred model kits. Not on this channel, but just as a kid. But you don't want to put everything in the water because the adhesive will get lost in the water itself. So now also I'm going to use decal adhesive because I am not going to clear coat this model, but I want to make sure these decals stay on that model in 5 years or whatever. So let's see, I also would recommend some sort of eyelash thing here. Oh, see, now it's moving already, so the adhesive has worked loose already. So I have these tiny titanium things that happen to lock. They weren't too expensive, these tweezers. Maybe they're $10. So I gotta get some adhesive. Pleasantly decal adhesive, from my experience, doesn't tear paint or do anything bad to models. Watch this thing totally tear apart the clear coat of this thing. Looking at this thing, it's actually more towards the front. It's not centered in the door. So, oh boy, hold on. Now, as long as this puddle is big enough, I should be able to move both of them around. So you don't have to put them on perfectly from the get-go. It's just gonna, float on top of that decal adhesive until I squeegee out that adhesive later. So I'm rotating that one around. Sadly, they only give you enough decals to get this right once. It would be nice if they gave you an extra set because not everyone knows how to, apply decals. I'm also noticing one side of this circle is bigger than the other. And honestly, I almost feel like the big circle wants to be on the top. Yeah, so hold on. This might be drying out already, so I'm going to put more decal adhesive on there and try to flip the two over. So these eyelash Q-tips are great because they're cotton, and cotton doesn't generally scratch things. But if it was obviously just a plain wooden toothpick, it's going to probably scratch a little bit more. Alright, so that's roughly in place, but let's see. I want to see that black stripe. Wow, I'm actually shocked that it's aligned properly. Now, if you let that dry right now on top of a giant pool of decal adhesive, there's a decent chance that it's going to shift on you. But it's going to shift into a dry position, which is what you don't want. So I find I often will take a Q-tip here and wet it a little bit, because if it's dry, it's going to end up on the Q-tip. And now I have to carefully try to squeegee out that adhesive. Sometimes rolling that adhesive over will actually shift the decal, which I suppose it is a fraction of a millimeter off. Or yeah, I almost feel like the top has to shift over a tiny bit. See, it's still slick. It's still wet underneath the decal, so that's why it shifted so easily. But it's not really on a massive pool of the adhesive, so I kind of feel like I actually probably could leave that alone and it might dry in that position. Alright, so yeah, that's my experience of how to apply decals. I'm going to pause this and come back. The decals are still wet, but I think we can continue on. So it's an acrylic base, by the way. Is the acrylic glue, 2 screws holding it together if you're crazy enough to take it off. Photo etch placard here, etched very deep actually. It tells you what the car is, and there's apparently 300 of this white one out there. Alright, it tells you the year as well, and this was showcased at that auto salon. Very cool, good info. We'll start with the side view here, as I like to do. This front wheel. Well, we got a center knockoff. It's all black. Although the real car is glossy wheels, so, these are matte finished wheels. I think they could have done a better job, right? It's pretty obvious that this car has glossy wheels in the photographs, so that's unfortunate. And then the tires, it's quite legible, the Toyo proxies there. And then the tire sidewall looks pretty curved. And the thing is screwed down tight enough that it has a big flat spot on the tire. I wish it wasn't that big, actually. It doesn't look that big on the side photo. But looking at the brakes, you got that erratic sweeping. They're not cross-drilled, they're slotted rotors. And then the center hat is gold. And then it seems like a silver Brembo caliper with the red Brembo starting off there. So that's actually a very realistic brake system. Maybe it's shifted too high though. I kind of feel like there's more gold of the hat showing through these openings than the bottom ones. So I'm not sure how or why that would occur. You know, if they were smart, the whole of the brake rotor would be very tightly around the center of that wheel. Strange. This is no way something like this is gonna roll. It's just jammed right up against the casting. Sadly, you can see this decal. The clearness of the decal there, you know, it's literally floating in space. I really wish these resin companies would just use tampo prints, you know, like Hot Wheels, right? So I would just slap some decal adhesive there. If you're even crazy, you'd try to trim that off with an X-Acto knife, but I'm not that crazy. This barge board / canard is a photo etched piece of metal that was bent 90 degrees. As you can see, the holes there, so that's pretty cool. The little latch there is painted black, and then this is, I think, a physical groove. Yeah, it is a groove like the real car. The panel gaps are very tight, much thinner than this toothpick. And then these, I don't know if those are decals, or I think that black sponsorship is tampo printing, because I don't see any wrinkliness in between the letters, right? So if that is the case, that's awesome. I just don't know why they wouldn't do that with the Ferrari badge. Maybe it's because it's multiple colors. That might be the reason why. So that's an advancement though, FuelMe. So that's fantastic. Those shouldn't come off like that red decal might later. See the air gap there of the clear? Anyways, slammed looks good. Alright, there's no ledge here. The NACA ducts. Yep, black inserted grills. Very cool. Also a black inserted grill back there. There's actually a reflective sticker in the mirror. Very good. The side windows, super thin packaging. You can see right through to the other side, nice and easy. And then we have a photo etched black painted piece of metal for the window molding. Looks like the fuel filler door there. And then look at these tiny looking holes for the body screws. Those are literally holes. I am not sure if I've ever seen that on any of my 164s. Usually it's like a divot, you know? But these look like pretty deep holes. So that's pretty cool. I wonder if one day someone will actually put miniature screws into these models at this scale. That would be very impressive. Or maybe they just glue on something that goes into those holes that look like, you know, the heads of a screw. Alright, well, rear wheel / tire, very slammed, as that word would say. And the brake system looks very good. And this is a different one from the front because it has I assume, the emergency brake caliper there. So very deep dish, as you can see, very good. It's just that they're not glossy, you know. And also, hold on a second. That side photograph, I'm not sure if it's this car, but the side photo has 5 spokes. This one clearly has 6, right? So, I don't know, maybe that side photo is not this car. Maybe they've sold a couple of these body kits, and that's a possibility. But the one that actually does have the red dot on it, it still does have glossy wheels. You'll have to rewind and check that out. Sorry if I lost focus, I was looking at the photographs. I don't know what that is, AME? And then I'm not sure the significance of 56. Leave a comment. Maybe, is that how old the owner of Liberty Walk is? Or is that when the person was born? These are recesses, painted black, so that's good. This F40, again, I almost feel like that's a tampo print, because I don't see wrinkliness there. Again, super tiny holes, much smaller than the toothpick. That's really impressive, very, very impressive. Okay, so up front we have a horse there in the grill, some sort of texture. Yeah, very fine grill textures in those 3 openings. And then the Ferrari badge is pretty much looks like the correct size to me. It doesn't look like a tablet. And then there's a little black thing in the NACA duct. It's probably a separate piece. Headlights look fantastic. You know, they're under this super thin clear cover. It's a little glue. I'm not sure if there's anything you could do about that. You know, how else would they keep that little thing there? But yeah, the headlights are chrome bezel and then, you know, some sort of center. I don't know if that center is clear though. It looks kind of cloudy. Possibly painted. Or possibly, if I'm looking over here at that one, you see the light? It almost looks like the clear has some depth to it. It's possibly like maybe painted in the back or a photo etched piece of metal and they put some resin on top of it. Anyways, all that's on a black background, so that looks correct. Yeah, it's interesting. Look at the front photo. The bucket itself isn't black. Only that black wall is black, according to the photos. And yeah, the outer lights are bigger than the inner lights. Toyo tires, again, Tampo printed. Very nice. Slammed printed. Very good. These are recessed as well. Yeah, see the pick going in there? They don't go all the way through, I don't think. That would have been even cooler, but yeah, they got some black paint in there. Nice wiper blade. It's bent perpendicular to the windscreen like a real one, so no complaints there. The windscreen, again, thin plastic with a black painted molding around it. And then the Liberty Walk here. This might be a decal. Looks a little wrinkly. Oh yeah, see? There's an air pocket in the corner. I'm not going to touch it. Okay, going up. Oh, fingerprint. Oh, thank goodness. Probably don't want to get oil on these things. Might long term ruin the paint, so. Molded windows, I think. I wonder if there's, are these really air slots? Look at this. I can't tell. I can't tell if those are air openings. They might be because it looks like you can see very clearly through that red bar there. But if you look below, it's kind of distorted because I think it's a molded window. So that... I might lose focus. I'm going to look at it with... Well, here, I hit focus, but I'm going to look at it with my own eyes instead of through the camera. I feel like it's not open. I feel like those are vertical walls. But, I don't know. I could be wrong. It's pretty hard to see these things as something so small. Alright, well, looking at that engine, the intercoolers, they look fantastic. Look at the ribbing on that rear. I don't know if that's the differential or what, but it's got ribbing. I don't know what those 3 things are. Those are probably the exhaust pipes that go out there. Anyways, it looks nice. And I know the real car only has this one red brace going that way. It's not an X brace. If you look up the Inno review, compared to a photo there. There's also something yellow up there in the upper left. Maybe that's an oil filter or something. Anyways, I think it looks great. And then, unlike a TLV, these look normal. They don't look like giant open mailboxes. These rear NACA ducts, yep, also black in there, probably separate pieces. Looks like they have some texture. Then we have some slots back here that also are probably recessed, but let me see. Yeah, look at that, recessed and some black in there. Or maybe they're just cutting all the way through in this darkness. So this rear wing, a very fine font printed there. Camul Produce. Interesting. The side plates are probably metal because they're so thin. And then it's a double-decker wing. I didn't even realize that. Okay, and then there's a center piece of metal. And then it's connected by this clear piece. I can't tell in that rear photograph if that's on the real car. It might be. I don't know. Please leave a comment if you decide to research it. Okay, so it's a little bit offset though. This is at an angle. What I'm thinking is maybe this is in a groove right in the middle of the body, but then it's pushing that to the side. That might be the reason. Alright, there's some sort of black lip here on the top. I think it's a separate piece of metal painted black. It's so thin. You can see a little glue residue there. Taillights are clearly transparent. You can see the light bouncing around in there. But these inner lights are supposed to be orange. Are they? Oh, you know, I think they are. Let me get a light to really bring it out. I don't know. Maybe they're not. What do you guys think? It's weird because it's right in front of me, and I kind of think they're both red. I don't think... Maybe it was just wishful thinking that the inner ones are orange, but I don't think they are. But in that rear photograph, it's quite obvious that the inner lights are orange on the perimeter. Okay, and also, you know, the inner of this little inner circle is supposed to be, I assume, white. I think that's where the backup lights might be. So it would have been nice if they painted white, or even better, have a photo-etched piece of metal there. Yeah, looking at that, those look like an identical color. Alright. 5529, I don't know. The rear photograph just has an LBWK license plate. So maybe this is a real car. Or maybe this is the car of that last photograph that I showed of the guy driving around Tokyo. That's a possibility. Maybe that's why there's some discrepancies here. And that's why they probably chose to not have this red dot on the model, because they're actually trying to mimic the car without the red dot. That's the logic I'm coming out of this. So you can see this clear, I mean not clear, this grille is, I mean it's not transparent, but the air gaps are, you know, there, so you can see all that engine work back there like a real F40. That's really neat. Look at all that engine poking through those holes. Very cool. Then the three pipes here, there's a chance those are actually metal. Unfortunately, this one might be crushed. It's just that they're so thin and so round. I almost think they might be metal tubes, but I might be mistaken. Maybe that's just a molded piece of plastic. And then the vanes here are relatively thin. I think they're plastic. These reflectors are recessed, and there's a little bit of shininess to them, so I think they must be a piece of photo etched metal with some red resin on top of them. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's really nice to look through that engine, that screen to the engine. I can't make complete sentences anymore. I can't. It's kind of hard to actually look at something, think about it, and then think about what to say. Like I'm in such awe of this model that I actually forget sometimes that I'm reviewing it. You know, I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, wow, that's so cool. So I apologize for my broken English, even though that is my native language. My suspicions, I think, are correct. I think that does say 5529. Definitely 55. So I think this model is of this rich person in Japan running around without a red dot on his car. So let's keep in mind, this is an unfair comparison, a die-cast versus a resin. But I like to do it because I see so many channels pushing die-cast, and it's obvious to me that it's inferior to making something look realistic because it's die-cast metal. Whereas plastic, you know, you can get much tighter lines and tighter details. But anyways, price is the issue, right? This is still, I think, a fantastic model, this Inno64. Because it's like over half the cost of this. Maybe you could buy 3 of these for the cost of this. But anyways, so we both have plastic bases. Granted, this is all solid acrylic, and that's the reason why it costs more, one reason, whereas this is a hollow molded piece of plastic. I'd be perfectly fine with a base like that if the model was cheaper. The stainless steel placard, you're paying for that as well. Okay, now actually getting to the model itself. So, bearing in mind, I think this might be the one that has the red dot permanently on there. And I'm aware now that I even looked at the interior of this, so hopefully we'll get back to that. But we've already started here. So this has tiny, tiny struts. These struts are a little bit bigger. Oh, never mind. I broke one off, and so I had to add these struts myself. That's my own doing right there, those struts. Look at the Ferrari badge. Look how big that badge is. There's no reason for that to be that big. Inno could have done a smaller one. But look how small that is. That makes more sense. This one has some sort of rivets for the headlight covers. I don't know if I saw that in the front photo. I've already closed out the photos, so I'm an idiot. I shouldn't have done that. Okay, so anyways, these are still tampo printed, so that's great on Inno's part. I didn't mention that this has tiny inserts in the grill up there. See? So separate inserts. And these separate inserts are what gives it good color separation. But it actually, Inno was smart. I think the plastic base is showing that grill. So it's still separate material, good separation. Very smart on their part. Okay, they both have side mirrors, of course. You know, I had to add my own red dot, and you'll notice the Inno red dot is much bigger. Okay. The Inno, though, it still has all this black paint in all these vents. So it looks pretty realistic. Right? But these are a little bit better because they're actually inserts. You'll notice the depth of this NACA duct is much more shallow than that. I have a suspicion this is more realistic. The NACA duct isn't usually very deep, from what I've seen. Hopefully you can pick up on just the crispness of the casting itself. Like the sharp edge of this NACA duct. It's so sharp here, but here you have roundedness because, I don't know, it is a diecast. It has to come out of a mold. I'm not sure how they're molding these resin bodies. I don't know if this body is 3D printed or if it is coming out of a mold of some sort. But I suppose if it is coming out of a steel mold, being plastic is not going to wear out the mold as much as pulling out a piece of die-cast metal. So maybe that's why the edges can be so sharp. It doesn't tear the mold apart. Okay, so the wiper blade on this is molded into the molded window. This has the super thin sheet plastic windows and a bent wiper blade, so that's far more realistic. Again, bearing in mind the price is far higher. There's that cross brace I talked about. It's quite large compared to the much thinner one in this one. Nicely molded rear window on this as well. Decent enough hinges up there, but you see again it's crude compared to the sharpness of what's going on there. And also, yeah, I kind of feel like the edge of the NACA duct here is just more of a 90-degree versus how this is more rounded. It's interesting the wing here is much narrower than the wing here, I think. You know, that looks wider than that. So I don't know which is correct there, of course. I've never seen one of these Liberty Walk F40s in real life. Now you notice this rear wing on the Inno is just one piece, which is logical for the price, but the resin is literally two pieces, and you can see air in between those two decks. This has a license plate, photo license plate. The exhaust pipes, you see, much thicker. I mean, not thicker, much bigger, but thinner walled. So that to me looks more realistic. Those exhausts look kind of small for the slot that they're sitting in. Okay, now look at the engine through this. It's quite obvious you can see there's an engine in there. But I think the Inno might actually just have a blanked off. No, it is a grill. So I think that's great on Inno's part. It is a physical grill. It's just that for some reason, I don't know why you can't see the engine. Huh, well that's odd. What's also interesting is this has some sort of Ferrari-esque badge back here. Oh, it's because this isn't actually the Liberty Walk car. This is that personal ride in Japan. So we can't really hold that at fault. This has taller reflectors. You'll have to rewind. I don't know which is more accurate. The wheels, I guess, yeah, since it's a different car. Although this has 6 spokes also. So maybe the real show car had 6 spokes. But No, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe they put on different wheels. This also has 6 spokes. But Inno actually at least got the wheel to be glossy, and it has a center, you know, a silver center. I don't know if the real car had a silver center, but it definitely had glossy wheels. So, again, Inno did a fantastic job, but the body itself just looks cruder. Let me see if I put this here. You see? Look at the ducts. Look at how the over fender kind of is smoothed into the vertical here, whereas this is clearly a sharp crease. A sharp crease. This is so sharp, this NACA duct, whereas this is kind of rounded. The door cut is, I don't know, everything just looks sharper on a resin model. Yeah, alright. So, okay, I'm just throwing that out there because, you know, people are always coming and going from channels. Maybe you're new to collecting, maybe you're thinking about collecting and haven't decided if you want to spring for these resins or just keep it, you know, a little more budget conscious. Bearing in mind, these are still expensive, these premium diecasts, I think. But they're, I think, worth it. They're far better than a Hot Wheels. I would rather have one resin model than 60 Hot Wheels. Well, that's just me. Quality over quantity. So we'll pull out 2 other resins here. Sadly, I don't know who made this because it's, you know, fly-by-night operations. It says runner. I have a suspicion it might be error 404, but I don't know for sure. So we have the F50. You know, I guess we're going to have to lose this now. And then just a good old F40. I think that's by MY64. And actually, if you just look up F50 resin, F40 resin, you'll find the video of it. Yeah, I don't recall complaining about this. I think I may have added that license plate, though, myself. This one has like a vacuum formed rear window. So it doesn't have cutouts or anything or very sharp stepping like this molded one does. The F50 is quite amazing because it looks like it's molded but also has physical air openings. So, but again, I don't know who made it. Very neat. It's refreshing to not complain about something you buy. So I'm not complaining here. I think FuelMe again, you did a great job. The interior. Sorry, I almost forgot about that. It's always tough to do these interiors because I don't have 3 hands, but let's see here. So this it's like a race steering wheel. And then the shifter looks fantastic. The gate looks very shiny, but there's literally a ball on top of a column like a shifter would have, at least an old shifter like that. The e-brake is in the race position. Obviously we have some red seats, but then we have harnesses. We'll have to get to the front view later. The dash there on the passenger side looks like 4 rivets holding, maybe they blanked off the glove box. There's 3 gauges in the middle, and those gauges look like they actually have needles on them. So that's pretty cool. Hold on. Let's see if I can focus and get in there even further. And now I'm at 4 times magnification. Yeah, look at that. That's really neat. And you'll notice the dash isn't slick. It looks like an Alcantara suede kind of dashboard. Alright. Or I wonder if this is like 3D printed, but with a powder printer. That might be how they're getting that texture, a powder printer. Okay, let's see about that instrument binnacle. It's all about finding the right angle, maybe even to get the light in that window, and then letting go and hitting the focus button. There we go, instruments. So I'm sure that's a decal, but you can see the needles. Very neat. The buttons on the center, though, they're kind of crude looking, and they have no paint. You know, I don't know. I kind of feel like some of those buttons would be red. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that dash is 3D printed because those 3 vents there in the bottom, those, one's actually turned differently. I have a suspicion those are air vents. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if those are air vents, those are very crude looking, and that's because it's a powder printer and not a resin printer. The floor also, in the central hump or whatever you'd call that, that also looks very grainy. I don't think there's any pedals down there. That's fine by me. Possibly that's a gas pedal right there under that round thing, but I'm not sure. The door, yeah, now see, that's much smoother because that's, I guess, the inside surface resin of the body. Then the seat. Okay, very, very three-dimensional multiple piece harnesses. So maybe that's like a piece of red plastic for the belt, but there's literally a photo-etched, buckle there, or whatever you call that, the tongue maybe of a seat belt. And then there's some black printing above it. It's not really legible. The bottom, probably another piece of metal, and then you literally have 5 belts going to it. There's some glue residue. Let's see, the top of the seats, yeah, the belts are going through. Oh, they're Sparco seats, okay. The top of the belts are going through, and they're just kind of glued to the backside, I guess. Now we're noticing there's a roll cage. Oh boy, I gotta back out, hold on. And also a rear view mirror. Probably just a piece of photo etched metal because it's so thin. Yeah, that roll cage I feel like could have been higher. There's a little wind down window handle there. And then obviously this being molded, it's really hard to see through all that, those crazy surfaces, but I'm pretty sure that's a really nice engine. It looks pretty nice to me at least. Okay, so that's the interior. If you're a real nitpicker, I suppose you'd want to have some pedals and brake pedals, but I don't really care myself. I mean, I care more about the outside, and it looks pretty awesome to me. Alright, so I don't know if FuelMe, maybe FuelMe released the Liberty Walk one that already had this red thing on it, and it didn't probably have a Japanese license plate. But I must have missed that. Or if they didn't come out with it, good for you, because you should probably buy it if they do come out with it. These things are kind of limited, there's only 300 of this one. So if you like high detail and you're willing to pay a little extra, or a lot extra, who are you kidding, I really suggest resin models. My theory is, old train sets, they're like 70 years old, and they don't get paint rash or anything like that. It's too heavy for my solar spinner. So anyways, on a random topic again, you should listen to Olivia Rodrigo. I really like her music. If you've ever been burned in a relationship, you'll really appreciate that lady's music. So, do you get deja vu when she's with you? Do you get deja vu, huh?